Hello humans, Master Dinnerflex here, bringing you the low quality content you deserve, and today I'll be going over something a little different. I don't know how to describe this, but I was rummaging through the warrior card pool. I think this was some time ago, and I was thinking well, first and foremost, let's go to Warrior Rhoda. That's a perfect example. There are types in this game that are substantially more powerful than the others. And a lot of the times, people will go to the big three, Warrior, Spellcaster, Dragon, but at this point, it's safe to say Fiend is also part of this. It's no longer the big three, it's the big four. Except, of the big four, Warrior is, not really, I don't know how to describe it, but Warrior is kind of in an awkward spot where the typing itself is not actually that powerful. It is just sometimes something comes along the way that kind of really presents the type as being powerful, and I think a perfect example, one that is so flawlessly an example of that, is Isolde. Isolde will trick you into thinking warriors are just way too powerful. Anything that is a warrior that summons a warrior needs to be banned. Oh my goodness, that's so powerful. When the reality is, Isolde is just that powerful, and obnoxiously so. And this is also kind of similar to times. Every time Rhoda goes to above more than one, it presents warriors as being much more powerful of a type than they actually are. And it's kind of interesting, because warriors at the start of this game's history were kind of nuts. If you go back and play Goat Control or any around the 2005, 2007, even into 08 and 09, warriors were very objectively the most powerful type. Goat Control, one of the best decks is just a collection of warriors with BLS in it. And it doesn't even matter that the warriors, they're slightly better versions of the warriors you're playing, because you can just Rhoda the warrior you want. That's where the term for warrior toolbox came from. It didn't even matter that sometimes they weren't the most optimal monster. It's just that they were a searchable version of that monster that made them go above and beyond. But regardless, past this phase, warriors are kind of Isolde is a perfect example where it's they present warriors as more powerful than they actually are. You can argue Invoker kind of does the same thing, where it's more these obnoxiously bloated extra deck monsters will make you think that the warrior type is more powerful than it actually is. But there's kind of a weirdly consistent theme with this type, that is Earth Warrior, but it's really weird because this type and attribute combo is mentioned in many multiple places, but it's not really that consistent in the type. And what I found through rummaging through all these cards is what I'd like to describe as, it seems like someone who is designing cards is trying to make the world's greatest 2012 deck. They're still fighting a war 13 years after it ended, because one of the most common anti-meta decks you could run into back in this time was Hero Beat, which was Neos Alias with Gemini Spark, maybe 3 copies of this, Gemini Spark, Stratos, and maybe another Gemini, and then a handful of other anti-meta monsters. And that was an entire deck list, and just filled with traps and anti-meta stuff. And it's kind of funny because if we even look at that deck on paper, it is shockingly it's incredibly nothing. Its strategy is so straight to the point, so basic. It's shockingly functional. It's more of a surprise that it actually does work more than the fact that it does. You just sit on a big guy that might force you to commit a card, and they can just punish you with Gemini Spark. That's it. That's the entire strategy. And for some reason, when looking through all these, quote, Earth Warrior monsters, you feel like someone's been, over the process of nearly 2 decades, been building a really cool anti-meta deck for a time that has long since passed. It's hilarious. A perfect example is these two. I think both of these came out 2010, 2011. This one says, once per turn, if a special summon monster activates the effect, you can negate the activation. Not a particularly powerful effect, but backed up with some traps or interactions where your opponent can't just run it over. That's kind of an annoying effect, especially if you control multiples. Like, that's really frustrating to try to deal with. Absolute Crusader is, like, slightly worse than that. It's a Doom caliber cost, meaning it's mandatory to tribute itself, to trap hole a level 5 or higher monster that's special summon. Like, that's considerably worse, but it is kind of in the same vein where it's like a slightly worse version of an anti-meta monster that's compensated by the fact that it's in a very searchable type, quotation searchable. And I've started to find that very weird. Like, it feels like someone was making a deck, and then you go later and you see Perfect Ace. This is just an Omni Negate on your opponent's turn, which very much fits into this. And then you, like, find some weird consistency tutors, like Rookie Warrior Lady, that prevents any of these weenies from getting ran over while also recycling. DD Warrior Lady is very old, but it's like a tomato tutor. You find Double Die, which can tutor these out of the deck if you have no monsters, or if you control one already, get another one to back it up. And then we have Gemini Spark for just any warrior in the entire game. And these two, I believe, are actually very recent. So whoever is making this really cool warrior control deck is still doing it after what is effectively 2 decades. And all I got to think is, like, it is weird that this is being built, like, in the background of card design, but it's obviously not very well put together, because this is just, you'll just randomly find pieces every few years that kind of build this strategy. And by the time, like, you could put these cards, like, if you could make them a deck, like, these are kind of already power crept. Like, it is kind of a weird situation where it's like the world's slowest deck build that is being power crept faster than it's being built. And it is very hilarious. But now I am, more than anything, so wildly curious. Are there enough of these cards to build a strategy around it? 2 issues I can see already is that even though they're, like, pretty solid anti-opponent cards, like, they're not that powerful, and more importantly, I don't see a way to gain card advantage with these cards outside of Rookie Warrior Lady that already needs you to be playing to do that, because it tosses itself as a -1, but it guarantees the monster survives battle, so that's a 0, and then it banishes itself to recycle a monster back, so that's a +1. So, like, this is the only one that arguably creates card advantage, and you already need to be playing well into the game for it to do that. And the rest of them are just like, this is a normal summon that just sits there. This is a normal summon that just sits there. Even if you special summon them out with Double Die, like, they don't create advantage for you. So, for one, a problem you would need to solve with this strategy is randomly finding an engine that solves the lack of card advantage. And then 2, like, even if you solve that problem, this would also, like all the other, like, anti-decks, like Neos Alias, it needs to be backed up by a lot of back row. And we're just in an awkward spot in this game where back row is so viciously power crept that it's kind of hard to even define how you're supposed to play traps when you do want to play them. And no, you could not just throw a bunch of hand traps in here and call it a day, because the biggest problem here is that hand traps are not nearly as powerful as normal traps, unfortunately. And more importantly, hand traps are only beneficial if you can capitalize on your opponent's stunted turn, which this deck won't be able to do. So there's not a lot of point in putting, just front-loading this with a mountain of hand traps, because it can't do anything if it prevents the opponent from playing. It just won't do anything with it. So they'll just play on the follow-up turn when you have less cards in hand. So that's kind of pointless. So there is one other thing I think we can do, and this is a stretch. What if we do Primite cards? Because I promise you, there are Earth Warrior normal monsters. That is absolutely something you're going to see. Drill Beam would be obvious. Lordly Load would be obvious. But I think something you could also commit considerably more into is Primite Roar, because you do need to see warriors. Under all circumstances, you have to see a warrior. So even just summoning out an Earth Warrior that just sits there, and then this is like a pseudo trap hole and grave, that's kind of fine. I think that's approachable and acceptable. I think I'm going to build on this, and I will be right back. Now, see, I want you to understand something real quick, that you have been absolutely baited. This isn't about a formal discussion on an anti-meta deck. This is about the rule of law, and I am here to make sure justice is served. Proceeding over this court will be the Honorable Judge Man, and today we will be looking at some crimes, and we have gathered a jury of your peers. We have X-Saber Anu Piranha, which just so happens to be the best stats for a level 4 normal Earth Warrior monster. Then, of course, all of this is for justice and absolute justice. There is no more to say about it. We also made sure to have an attorney, an ace attorney, if you will, to make sure everything goes smoothly. And, of course, we'll have our witnesses. And a witness, I will say, to attempted murder, which is a big deal. She can also make sure to bring more witnesses to the stand, which is very important. And all of this, again, is for the rule of law. And we are going to make sure this court is kept orderly and conduct is done properly. No bribery, no fishy business. We are going to keep this as quick as possible. And of course, we have our double die to bring any witnesses or members of jury to the stand or anything. And not to mention, if we need to send any monsters out to recess, we can do that with expendable die. Not to mention, Primate Roar, not only can it bring out a member of the jury, but it can send any monster your opponent tries to meet with it to an extended recess, which is very important. And, of course, we have plenty of these cards, because there will be order in this courtroom. We are going to intimidate as much as possible all those evildoers and etc., etc. Plus, with this lineup, you can pretend like your deck has a bunch of hand traps in it, which it doesn't. Now, what are the crimes we're going to be going over? Well, that's simple. We have 3 counts of drunken disorderly conduct. We have 2 counts of domestic terrorism. We have 2 counts of accomplice to a cyber attack. We have 2 accounts of that dog being in them. We have 2 accounts of battery. And we have 4 accounts of Grand Theft Monster. So, as you can see, this is a legal proceeding. I was told that Yu-Gi-Oh! Was a lawyer game, so I decided to make sure this deck is as lawyered up as possible, and that's, I think, what we're going to go for. Now that we got this out of the way, we need to make sure this deck can perform and give proper legal proceedings. We don't want any messy business, but that's going to be it for me. Thank you all for watching, and remember, Master Dinnerflex will take your soul. That's not on the record.
I said